When I look at these words, they're words that you can unpick and then you find your own essence, you find your own meaning, and you apply it, or it's relevant to everybody from all walks of life and all four corners of the world. These quotes would mean something to everybody in the world, every single person, no matter where they are.
We asked people linked to Birmingham and to the West Midlands to respond to 3 Shakespeare quotes. Each quote was taken out of context. We asked them to tell us what it meant to them. Here is how people responded to our first quote.
To thine own self, be true. This quote reminds me how important it is to be the best version of yourself for yourself, not for anyone else.
But I think also it means to own who you are. So be honest with yourself about your motivations, about why you're doing things, whether that's, who you're working for or your activities outside of that. It's about being honest with yourself about who you are.
For me, this quote is someone trying to comfort you and make you feel brave, because it can be very difficult to do what feels right and what feels comfortable for you when it seems that everybody else is going in another direction and you'd rather not rock the boat.
It really felt like something I needed to do. It feels like something I should be doing and I should be proud to be doing, is don't worry about what anybody else thinks. Don't worry about how you will be presented. Just be who you are. And that is good enough.
As you get older, you go through different things. You become who you are. That one resonates with me, I would say.
As you get older, you sort of shed all the veneers or the masks that we have had on for, however many years, because we're old enough to, and bold enough and brave enough, as they say, to say, yeah, this is me, this is who I am.
This is a quote that I'd actually heard on its own before I found it swimming around in the Shakespeare text. And it's one of those ones that didn't really mean much to me at the time, because I first heard it when I was young, and, who are you when you're young? So who can you be true to? But as time's gone by, it does make more sense. It's like back yourself and trust yourself, even when you're not sure why, which I like.
To me, this quote speaks loudly to the idea of personal integrity and personal honesty. I feel we have a small voice in our heads which always speaks when we're lying to ourselves. I suppose this is what people might call a conscience. There are times when it's very easy to ignore that voice and go through with a decision or an action because it's the easiest or the most popular thing to do.
If you're sticking to your principles and your morals and everything that you stand for, and you're putting yourself and everything that you stand for at the forefront of everything you do, even if your decision may be slightly off what you thought it was originally going to be like, you'll work out in the end.
I like this quote for a number of reasons. Firstly, because it's just a nice sentiment, but secondly, because the way I read it, at least, the emphasis on being true to your own self as opposed to being truthful to anyone else gives you a lot of leeway to sort of get away with whatever you want when it comes to telling your own story. You can lie and fib your way through life if that's what you want to do, as long as you're true to your own intentions. And I think that's fun.
So far, that's my favorite quote. I really was overwhelmed. My eyes welled up. This really touched me very deep, because I know that feeling for a couple of reasons, but particularly because I'm extra special. I'm Asperger's syndrome, I'm masked, I can't be myself. I'm not going to be accepted in the society unless I mask and not be myself. In this age, I am proud of this. But when I was younger, it was hard, especially when I come from, there's a stigma around autism, and I cannot say that I'm autistic. For me, it's too much to express.
Whatever adversity or challenge I may face, whether that be in a personal or work context, this quote reminds me to be uncompromising with my happiness. I can control my sense of well-being and satisfaction only by being true to myself, not anybody else. This quote reminds me to not become just another voice in the crowd or to follow somebody else's dream. It prompts me to be brave by reminding me to stay true to my own thoughts and feelings.
It's a nice quote about self-confidence, about trusting your gut, trusting your instincts, and going with what you believe, you know, not trying to please someone else or second guess someone else with what you think they might think that you might think that you should do. I think it's a bit of advice there. So what a nice kind of timeless sentiment about self-confidence.
I think the advice is really profound. In the age of social media, it's so easy to compare yourself and to follow trends and ultimately lose sense of who you really are. This quote makes me feel really inspired to honour who I am and to choose to always present myself as who I truly am in order to feel free and happy.
Now, this quote reminds me of making sure that your oxygen mask is on first before helping others. It's knowing your limits, your values, your views in order to look after yourself the best you possibly can so that your energy can help others.
To thine own self be true is a noble aspiration, but more powerful for the one who has known solemnity and has been able to emerge from this to stand with firm conviction, knowing that they have tested themselves first.
So when I read this quote, it actually gives me a bit of a lump in my throat, actually. It makes me think about all the big decisions we have to make in our lives that, I mean, they might not seem big 10, 20 years later, but at the time seem absolutely huge. So what GCSEs do you take, and A-levels, university, what job are you going to do? Do you get married? Are you going to have children? All these sorts of things. And it's really important to be true to yourself. I think it's one of the most important things in the world. But I think it's one of the hardest skills to develop because you can never be without external influences. So I think it's a really emotive quote for me. The only example I can think of where somebody is almost completely true to themselves, but even then they've been influenced, is when you watch a toddler make decisions. So here's an example. My daughter was painting and she was painting a flower and the flower was yellow, fine. And then the stalk was red and pink or something. And my mum said to her, oh, sometimes leaves are green, aren't they? Maybe the leaves could be green. And she just went, nope. And I think that is an example of someone just being, no, this is what I want. I don't need influence from anywhere else in the world. And I think we could all be a bit more toddler. I think we can find our inner toddler, and I think we'd all be a lot happier.
I think it might mean just be yourself and do what you can.
For me, this quote is about the importance of being who you are. When we are working out who we are in life, we might dally with other versions of ourselves and seek to please others. We may go off course from our authentic self. Ultimately, it is us alone who are responsible for keeping the measure of this. But I think that real happiness can only be rooted in authenticity. And I believe that at the end of our days, we will not regret what we did or said, but rather what we know we wished to do or say, but didn't.
I think I sometimes fall into the pattern of trying to express something to other people that isn't really me in the hopes of winning them over or winning their favour. When in reality, there's only ever going to be one you. And you should always be the best version of yourself and do it for you.